when we were looking to buy a house, dude, it felt like the most stressful thing in the world. Like literally, like we knew nothing about. So this was our first house, obviously. So we knew nothing about buying houses, like how to even get the process started. Nothing, um, insurance, property taxes, all that stuff. It was all new to us. We didn't know how to do anything. So so I'm just gonna go real quick and give you guys a quick guide on how to buy your first home, second home, whatever. But this is pretty much just a basic guide on how to buy a home for anyone listening. Step one, what you got to do is have good credit. Step one, you got to have good credit. What I recommend for this is when you're 18. I know a lot of people are against this. A lot of parents are against this, but I recommend every 18-year-old to go out and get a credit card because you will need it.
Yeah,
You will need the credit.
definitely. And if you don't trust yourself with a credit card, well,
It's time to start trusting
Yeah,
yourself
start
and
trusting
build that
yourself.
discipline because you're gonna need it in life. I know a lot of people are trying to go by Dave Ramsey's way, where
no credit.
no credit, none of this stuff. But it's so hard to buy a home without any credit. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna need so much cash down, and especially in the kind of economy we live in right now. Homes are getting out of this world expensive.
Yeah.
It's getting a lot harder for our generation to buy a home. So with good credit, it's going to make it just that much easier.
Yeah.
So what I recommend, if you're 18-year-old, if you're 20-year-old, if you're 24-year-old, you don't have a credit card, go out and get one because you're going to need it. Who knows, maybe in a year or 2 years, you're going to be married and you're going to be thankful that you got one, or your spouse is going to be thankful that you got one.
Yeah.
So if you don't trust yourself yet, if you don't know how to use a credit card, a lot of YouTube videos about it, or ask your parents. It's pretty simple. Just what I recommend, just put like gas on it. Just stick to one thing. If you're just getting used to using a credit card, just stick to one thing. Buy gas. Every time you go fill up your car, just put it on the credit card, pay it off the next day or pay it off in a couple days.
Yeah.
Pay it off right away though. That's the key. Just use it. What I always tell people is use it like a debit card. So if you look in your bank account and you have no money, don't use the credit card.
Yeah.
Just use it, because if you were to use a debit card in that situation, you had no money, it wouldn't let you go through. So same thing with use it like a debit card. So look in your bank account. Okay, I have $500 in my bank account. I'm trying to buy this thing for $100. Okay, I could afford it. You pay with the credit card. In a couple of days, pay off your credit card. Bam, money takes out of your checking account, and you're at 400 now. So just have that good discipline in the back of your mind that I'm not gonna just spend just because I have this credit card. I'm just gonna go out and buy a whole bunch of things. No, only buy things you could afford.
Yeah, for sure.
And that will build your credit. Keep it under. So when you open up a credit card, it's gonna give you a credit line. Best way to build your credit as fast as possible is first always paying it off. Never have a balance go over. Never miss a payment. Second thing is to keep it under 10%. A lot of people say under 30, but I found it under 10% to be the best. So say your credit line is $2,000. Keep the balance under $200. That's going to be under 10%,
10%, yeah.
and that's going to build your credit credit score as fast as possible.
That's called your utilization ratio. So basically how much of your credit limit you are utilizing.
Yeah.
So keep it under 10%.
So once you have a good credit, so say you've had credit for like 2 years already. 2 years is a good amount.
Another thing is, right before you go into it, John, that first credit card you get, make sure it's one that has no annual fee. Open it up at 18 and just keep it open till you die or something.
Literally, never close that
Never
credit card,
close it.
because another huge important factor about credit cards or your credit score is age of credit.
Yeah.
And so that one credit card that you open up at 18 or 20 years old or whatnot, your first credit card, it's gonna hugely impact your age of credit because it's gonna be the oldest card.
Yeah.
Right, Kat?
The cat has joined
Right.
us.
That's right. Whoa, buddy.
All right.
All right. So yeah, age of credit. So once you have good credit, great credit is like in the 700s. Once your credit is in the 700s, you could easily go and go start looking at houses if you could afford it. So that's the next thing, affordability. So you want to have a good enough down payment for your house. You have to have a certain amount of money saved up already. These days, there's certain loans like a FHA loan, first time home buyers loan, where you only need 3.5% down payment. of a house. So say you're looking at a $300,000 house.
Yeah.
That's gonna be some quick math.
300K house, 3%. What is that? 3K?
10 and a half.
Pause.
Wait, is that right? Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
It
that does
should be
make
10 and a
sense.
half.
That makes sense, actually.
My math was right. So 10,500. So yeah, if you're in an area where you can buy a good home for 300,000, say it's a townhouse or some kind of condo or whatever, or if you're like in the East Coast or South and you could actually buy a house for 300K, that's what you're looking at, the range. So 10 and a half plus you want and a half, probably another 10 and a half, to be honest, for just closing costs that you're gonna have to take care of. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about, but closing costs are pretty expensive. So you just want to have a reserve of like, I want to say from like $6,000 to maybe $8,000 after that down payment of just reserved for closing costs.
Yeah.
And so say you got that $15,000 to $18,000 saved up. Okay, you can start looking at a few houses to get. So you have your down payment, you have your closing cost, and now you have to check how much monthly, what monthly payment you could actually afford. And you could do this a few different ways. You could look at house affordability calculator on Google. I recommend that a lot. Or you could also look on like Redfin or Zillow. They have, when you click on any property, if you go down to the bottom, you could kind of see how much that house is going to cost you per month. And you look at it and you look at it and say, okay, for this amount of money, or if I get like say a $300,000 house at a certain interest rate, it's going to cost me $2,200 a month. And you're thinking about it, and that's with like taxes and insurance included. And you're thinking about it, you're like, can I afford that $2,200 a month? Because if you can't afford that $2,200 a month, if you have other like debts or something, if you have a car payment that's $500 a month, or you have credit card debt that's like another $1,000 a month or something, or student loan debt, it could, all those factors weigh in. So you have to see, do I have every month, do I have $2,200 a month that I could spend on a house mortgage, instead of maybe I'm putting it into my savings, or maybe I'm putting it somewhere else, or maybe I'm just using it on clothes or something. Do I have that 2,200? And maybe it's more. Maybe it's where you live, it's gonna be like 2,500. If you're like in Washington State, California, maybe it's gonna be like 3,000 or 3,500.
Yeah,
it gets pretty up there. So you have to make sure that you're able to afford that monthly payment.
Yeah, because you have to factor in, I mean, you have other expenses. You have insurance, you have car payments, you have gas, food, you got to eat, and all these other things. And I mean, that's a lot of money that you have to allocate each month to your mortgage. So that's going to leave you with less for everything else that you want to do and everything else you have to pay for. So make sure that you get your house, that calculator, affordability calculator, down to figure out how much you can actually afford on your house.
For sure. And then after that, after you find out, all right, I have good credit, my credit's like at 700 something, I have a good amount for a down payment and closing costs, and I could afford this much per month. Now you go to a lender, and I would honestly ask around, like either your parents or people, maybe friends that have went out there and bought houses already. Ask them who they went with, because word of mouth is word of mouth is probably the best type of reviews you could do, because if they enjoyed it, or if their process went smoothly, it's probably going to end up that your process goes smoothly too. So I'd honestly go look around, or look around YouTube as well, or not YouTube, Google around your area, see some good loan officers.
Yeah.
Go to them, get pre-qualified. Different from pre-approval. Pre-qualified is just you give them all the information. So say you tell them how much you make, how much debt you have, and I think that's pretty much it, actually. How much you make and how much debt you have. I might be missing something, but pretty much you give them all the information, and they're like, all right, based on the information you gave us, this is how much we would pre-qualify you for. It's going to be a certain amount. It's going to be like $450,000.
Do you tell them your credit score too?
Yeah, I believe you give them your credit score too. Or they do a soft pull. It's not a hard inquiry. It's a soft pull of your credit. kind of when you just check your credit. So you give them all that information, and they tell you how much based on all the information you gave them. They're gonna pre-qualify you for this certain amount, which is like, I don't know, it could be like 350,000, it could be 400,000, way more if you're saying you make a lot more. So say you get pre-qualified for $400,000. That means that based on what you said, this loan company will give you a loan for 400,000. That doesn't mean the house has to be, when you're purchasing the house, it doesn't have to be 400,000. It could be, obviously it could be a lot less, or it could be more depending on how much of a down payment you put. So say you had that 10,500 for the down payment. Now the house that you buy, it could be $410,500. It's just that $400,000 is just the loan amount, not including the down payment.
So just the amount that you don't have.
Yeah, just the amount that you don't have. Obviously, I would recommend going as low as possible for your first home. Try not to just break the bank, try not to max out that. So say they give you 400,000, or say they'll give you 400,000. Try not to max out that 400,000, because I mean your monthly payment is just gonna be a lot. Try to go as low as possible. So you got pre-qualified from the lender, and now you have an idea of how expensive of a house you could go out and look for now. So now you know that, okay, I could go out and look for a house that's up to like $410,000. So now you have an idea, and you could kind of look and into your Redfin or Zillow apps. You could put in that in like your houses. When you click on a house, you could put in 410,000, and it'll show you how much per month you'll pay, and then you could see, all right, yeah, that's in my monthly affordability number that I could afford. Or you're gonna be like, no, 400,000, that's gonna be actually way out of the affordability range that we could do per month. So you got to be like, all right, well then I can't afford even though they approved me for, or pre-qualified me for 400,000, I could only afford, say, 310,000 based on my affordability calculator and how much I could afford per month. So now you got to look at the 310,000, because you already know that 400 number is way too high, out of your range, and just stick to that then, because you don't want to be out of your budget. So once you do that, once you get pre-qualified, the next thing you got to go do and actually get pre-approved by the lender. This is, they actually do a credit check. They take all your paperwork, and what you will need is your W-2 form. So if you have a regular job, your W-2 forms from the past 2 years. If you're 1099, I believe it's
6 months.
Yeah, I believe it's like 6 months. The next thing you'll need is pay stubs from the past 30 to 60 days that you got paid from those jobs, and then proof of other source of income. So one thing that happened to me is I sold my car, and I thought, well, I'll just use that money that I sold the car with for additional down payment or something like that. And they didn't let me, because certain lenders, you have to talk to your lender about this. If you're thinking about selling a car for a down payment, or selling a car to have some extra money for a down payment or closing costs, you got to talk to your lender about it, because once you go into the pre-approval process, they actually monitor your bank account, because they can't just have random money flowing in, because they see that as
fraudulent activity, or what?
Not fraudulent, but they see that as like, they don't know where this money is coming from, so they think you're a little bit suspicious. So yeah, so say you're like thinking of just selling a car. Yeah, I'm gonna sell my car for 15 grand, and I'm gonna have an additional 15 grand for a down payment. You got to be really careful and ask your loan officer how you're gonna do that, because some of them actually don't let that. And whereas some other loan officer that I know of, they actually, all you would need is like a bill of sale, and that's pretty much it. But some loans, like for instance, my loan officer didn't let us do that. Didn't let us just do a bill of sale. So there's ways around it. You could have a family member. You could give that money to a family member, and they could give it to you as a gift, pretty much. So you sell the car, you give them the cash, and then they send it to your bank account as a gift, and then you have to fill out a gift, pretty much gift letter for the loan company. You could do it that way. So I mean, there's ways around it, but just just keep that as a heads up. It's not as easy as it seems. You can't just toss 50K into your bank account and
Yeah.
just expect to use that as a down payment.
Everything has to be processed and
Yeah, because I believe they monitor like, I don't know if it's like the last 3 months, but there's a certain number of months that they monitor your bank account.
so maybe it's not when you're buying a house, don't really keep money in cash form or in your mattress or something like that. Like make sure it's in your bank account.
You just have to let them know. There has to be a way that you tell them where you got this money, and it can't just be like, oh, I pulled it out of my mattress. Like that's not gonna slide.
Yeah.
So another thing is like if you're buying a house right after you get married, that's also a big thing because during your wedding you get a lot of money, but if you're buying a house right after you get married, you can't just toss all that money in your bank account and then expect to use it. Like we bought it a year after, so once we tossed it in, it was already fine because we had to wait a year. But for someone that's buying it right after they get married, it might be might run into some problems because you're having all this money get thrown into your bank account, and they're like, "Where did this come from?" And you could say from your wedding, but now you have to give them a um
Written statement or something.
like a statement from every single person that donated this money to you.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's gonna get pretty hard. So if you can't buy that, buy the house before you get married. But if you can,
Yeah.
that would be.
Before you move on, John, I wanted to touch on so that was basically if you have a W-2, right? You're gonna get checked on the last 2 years. You need pay stubs, right, from the last 2 years, or just taxes from the last 2 years.
Pay stubs from last 30 to 60 days, W-2 forms from the past 2 years.
Yeah, and then if you're self-employed or you have your own business, which is basically you'll be having a 1099 in that case. I have to check it again, but I believe they actually check the last 2 years of taxes for your 1099, which means they're going to be checking you not based on the amount of money you made. So say your business brought in $100,000, but you wrote off a bunch of stuff and your profit was only 20 grand. They're going to check that as in you made 20 grand, not that you made 100 grand. So when you're buying a house, because I know a couple people where they told me that they had their own business, they were making really good money, but they were writing everything off. They were like making it so that they had to pay as little in taxes as possible. And then they went to go buy a house and they didn't get approved for basically anything because the amount the bank sees is the amount, or the loan officer sees the amount they see is your profit, the actual amount you made, which is that 20 grand, not that 100 grand, because you wrote everything off. Everything else was an expense. So they see that as that's how much it costs to run your business. So those 2 years if you have your own business, you're self-employed, right? You have a 1099. 2 years before you're planning on buying a house, make sure that you don't write everything you can off. You want to make sure that obviously you can write off some stuff, but you want your taxes to show that you make a good amount. So if you make 100 grand, all right, maybe like write off 20 grand so it shows that you made 80 grand, but don't write off everything so that it looks like you only made 20 grand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then so I guess the next thing that you would also need is, like David said, your federal income tax returns from the past 2 years. A lot of the loan officers ask for that too, and then recent bank statements. What they usually do is just sign into your bank account. As sus as that sounds, they literally sign into your bank account. And they could just see everything from the past couple months. If they don't do that, they'll obviously ask for your bank statements from the past couple of months. And then what else they ask for is details on long-term debts like car or student loans. And that will affect how much you get approved for. So if you have a car that's 80 grand and you're paying $1,000 a month for it, it's gonna negatively impact how much you get approved for. Or if you have student loans and you're paying a certain amount for that, it's gonna negatively affect it as well. Other thing you need, obviously, ID and social security number. So after you have all that put together, you'll get pre-approved, and the lender will tell you, all right, now that you gave us all the information, we have a better understanding of how much you could actually afford, and this is how much we'd get pre-approved for. So say you got pre-qualified for $400,000, but once they look at all your debt, once they look at all your income, they're like, actually, you know what? We could only pre-qualify or pre-approve you for $380 now, because you had some debt that you didn't tell us about or something like that. So now you know, okay, I'm pre-approved for $380,000. Once you know all this and you have your pre-approval letter, now it's time to start looking for a good real estate agent. And I cannot stress how important it is to find a really, really good real estate agent that you trust and that is knows what they're doing, and that is really good and has a lot of reviews and people saying that, yeah, they know what they're doing and they're really good. Because a lot of times what people do is they have a friend that's in real estate. You know, over the past couple of years, so many people have gotten into real estate, and a lot of them are like people, you know, family members or friends, and you know, you want to kind of help them out, like, hey, let me help you get your first sale or second sale or something. But guys, this is one of the most, if not, this is the biggest purchase you'll make so far in your life. Like, it's a huge purchase.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important purchases you'll make in your life. You don't want this purchase in the hands of a rookie real estate agent. As bad as that sounds, you have to put yourself and your family first here. Go out and find a really good real estate agent. Ask for references. Ask people around you who they used.
What their experience was with them.
Yeah, what their experience was with them, because you have to look for an experienced real estate agent. Experience will always outperform anything they say on social media or anything they say that they could do, or how well you think they're doing. Experience will outperform all of that. So go out and find a really good real estate agent. So the first real estate agent we found, they were not very good at all. I felt like I knew more than them. And, you know, there's nothing worse than going on a call with your real estate agent and them saying, oh, yeah, everything's fine with the house. Everything's, you know, it looks good. It just needs whatever, a new door or something. When in reality, the whole house needs to be redone. So, yeah, nothing is as scary as that. And you know the whole house needs to be redone, and your realtor is telling you that, no, just a little bit needs to be done. It's not that bad at all, you know. So put your biggest purchase in the hands of a really good realtor. And then so after that, we got a really great realtor that helped us through the entire process, and we were out-of-state buyers, so it was even harder. But she took us through the entire process very smoothly. We highly recommend her. She was awesome.
And tell them about how you had one of our friends actually do like a check and interview for realtors in this area.
So we had one of our friends actually pretty much
he's a realtor
in Washington, but obviously he's not licensed in Florida. So what he did is he asked a bunch of people for who they recommend for realtors in Florida, and then what he actually did on our behalf, he would call those realtors and like reference check them, or like interview them and see which one is the best one. And then after he got a report of all them, he would come to us and say, hey, all right, these two realtors are the best ones. This one has benefits in this. This one has benefits in this. Like, for instance, this one is really good with investment properties. They do a lot of investment property purchases. This one's really good at negotiating. So if you want to get the best deal, this one's really good with negotiating. And then we chose based on that. But yeah, so highly recommend, if you do have someone that you trust in a state, but they're not licensed in another state, and you're looking to buy in another state, have them reach out to those real estate agents, because they already know all the lingo. They could ask them and figure out which one's the best for you.
And it's not like they'll be doing that for free too, because they will end up getting like a referral bonus as well.
Yeah, so our friend actually got the referral bonus for himself by doing that. So
their time is compensated.
Yeah, because he went out and found he in a sense was giving our business to a realtor here in Florida. So in that case, the realtor in Florida gave him a percentage of the deal as well. So it works out for both realtors. You could help out your friend that's in this state, and yeah. So I cannot stress how important it is to find a really, really good real estate agent, because the whole buying process will be day and night for you. You could sleep well at night knowing that your purchase is in good hands, and they're coming with a lot of experience and a lot of things that they saw in their own life, they saw in their own career, and they could tell you about those experiences so that you don't repeat them as well. And yeah, so after that, I mean, you pretty much put in an offer. The realtor will guide you through the whole process. The loan officer will guide you through the whole process. And after that, you just start. Once you're in the process of closing on the house, you'll look out for insurance for the home, and after that, you'll get set up with the payment structure and all that, and you'll get a day when you have to pay your bills, and you'll sign up for electricity, and yeah, everything will be good to go, and you guys can move into your new home.